one of shooting a feature film.
And action!
Holy shit, this is really happening.
Hi, my name is Braden. When I was 19, I set out to make a feature film right out of high school. It's called Human Resources, and it's a horror movie that takes place entirely in a hardware store. And somehow, this little passion project ended up premiering on Stars and going to movie theaters.
These kids are really good.
Last episode, I showed you how we got pre-production off the ground with no studios, no funding, and no real way to make it happen.
I'm so scared to make this movie.
Cannot let this production die by any means.
And now it's time to continue our story and dive headfirst into our chaotic 6 weeks of shooting.
We gotta go, yeah.
We're ready, you guys, we're doing it for real!
It felt more like it was actually happening than being on a film set because it was so creepy.
My heart's really going right now.
Blood! Keep going, let's try one more time.
Oh, we're gonna do it again.
Yeah, one more.
Okay.
This is a scrappy production with all of our friends. We just had to try anything.
Classic 18-year-old knucklehead behavior.
But even through the chaos, we learned more about film in one summer than we had learned in our entire lives. And I want to teach you the top 10 things I learned shooting this movie as a teenager.
Action!
So good.
2019, Orange County. Production had begun on Human Resources.
Hey, dude. Good morning. The captain. Good morning. We're all packed. We're like ready to go. Packed up now? Okay. Thank you so much. Beautiful. I'll see you there.
Months of prepping had led to this, and the cast was ready to perform the horror script that I wrote with my brother about working retail.
Today is day one of Human Resources, the feature film.
It was all uncertain up until this point. None of us really knew how it was all gonna work out.
My brain was still like, this is a fun short film. And I get in there and it's like, holy shit, like this is real. Like it's happening. At least some part of it will be shot.
How does it feel? Day one?
Feels great.
Yeah, buddy.
Day one of shooting a feature film.
Braden pulled this shit off.
It was so cool to see everyone roll up. Everyone got out of their cars, unloading equipment. Like, okay, we're making this film. There are people here to make this film with us.
How does it feel?
Feels crazy and weird and strange and awesome. Great. It's just like the first day getting the movements going. It'll feel better when I like see it rolling. We'll get there.
It was still like a scramble thing going on. You're over here. Okay, let's get this. You're running. And this is kind of what it's going to be like if, you continue to progress.
We're gonna roll in 20 minutes. Let's go.
Just kill it. Let's shoot
We
it.
gotta go, yeah. All right, we ready?
Roll sound.
And action. Drop them. And cut. Yeah, one more.
Within an hour of being on set, I learned my first major lesson. Finish what's in front of you. The second you're thinking about what's coming or what's come before, you're not present anymore.
You just gotta take it scene by scene,
Just got a scene done.
bite-sized, piece by piece.
Do 101 more.
And you just keep on doing that until the day is done.
Directing day 2.
Day two. There's only one other day two.
This is my job.
There's light stuff.
Sorry, we gotta go.
Every time you enter a new location, you hope you've prepped enough to call action.
And action.
Especially if you're a low-budget production like us. This was a script that took place in a hardware store, but since our time in the actual stores was very limited, we decided to turn other simple locations into back rooms and offices and such in places we already had easy access to.
So you're familiar with this location, right?
Yeah, this is where we shot The World Within Vincent.
And even though it was convenient, it was no easy task to get production design and lighting and direction right in a random office that was supposed to be a hardware store.
Over here.
Let's reset and do the same thing.
And then you're in frame there. Oh, you're good there.
It can be such a learning curve to figure out a process in those first days and find your footing.
Yeah, we're gonna get this. We got it cleared. Anthony, just try not to get as close to him.
I'm good with that, Braden. Cool.
Action.
5 to 10 minute breaks are allowed.
So we had a lighting team of 1 to 2 people.
Action.
These are the personal storage spaces.
I remember like our second day of production, we're like, let's make the scene our own and try to light it with the units that we did have. And it just didn't work because we just like literally didn't have the lights.
There's no respect for the art of lighting.
Got
Shoot
it.
it, but then like everything.
Got it.
looks bad, you know?
Before production began, we tried our best to create a schedule that would work. I was literally planning like every single imaginable thing that I could possibly dream of to get on set. set.
But I think that we were so young that we didn't really understand that that was going to be a problem.
But once we did get there on set and see everything in action, I almost came up with a new shot list every single morning.
It's really funny, actually. I'd have a page of the entire shot list and flip it over to this blank page, and I'd write down the shots for the day.
So I might not have done the greatest prep in the world, but once we realized this was happening, we kind of banded together at the end of that second day.
Where it's like set a time and like stick to it.
And figured out our next big lesson of the production. Be prepared to scrap everything.
You can do your prep and everything, but the second you're there with actors, like all that prep goes out the window because there's so many variables in film on the day that, you know, you just can't anticipate.
You just have to be okay with improvising and trying new things that you never thought you were going to try, because anything can happen and the shot might turn out better.
I think that was like the best film school possible at 19.
You really have to force yourself to push past those initial problems. And as we shot at these relatively simple office sets, we started to find a process that did work for us.
That is a wrap on weekend 1, baby! Human Resources Day 5.
Hey.
Doing some crazy business.
Not doing any killing yet, but it's
killing.
coming.
This was our first time in an actual hardware store to recreate the fictional hardware store from the script. We would be filming in multiple locations and making it look like a massive hardware store because we didn't have access to one that was actually that big. And we were starting in a hydroponics store to double as the gardening section.
It was so cool to be shooting on location in a really cool store. Like, it had a really cool look to it. It was just like got these weird products in it, and the lights overhanging were like creepy and they flickered a little bit sometimes, and it was just perfect for what we were looking for.
When we were location scouting, every single store owner told us if we were gonna film in their store, we had to do it under supervision during business hours. And it had to be for a short period of time, which is the last thing you wanna hear when you're prepping to shoot a big movie. And for the first weekend, like I said, we were shooting at locations that we had found from family and friends, not to mention all the stuff we were doing was just basic dialogue scenes. Now, it was actually time to see how the horror scenes of this movie would pan out, which I was very nervous for. And when we actually got to set, we started to see what we could get away with, you know, a fake blood gag, an intense yelling scene, supernatural goo oozing out of the shelves. But after a customer almost called the police on us when it looked like we were doing something we shouldn't, we had to rethink things. Looking back on it, I think I can see why someone would want to call the police. My God. We had so many special effects things left to do, including the biggest of all, the monster reveal scene. We were well aware that we were already pushing our luck with these generous store owners, but it was getting to the point where we were running out of options. This is where we learned lesson number 3. The worst they can say is no. People really want to help you, they do, but you have to show them that you're trustworthy and you're someone who's not going to destroy their space. And we were lucky enough to get access to the store after closing for one night.
It is closing time here at 55 Hydroponics, which means the demons come out.
A horde of monsters is no easy task to pull off on any production, but for a low-budget production, it's damn near impossible.
You told me that there was going to be this big climactic end scene where you can see all of these creatures.
If we're not going to CGI them, we can't just make like anything we want.
So the low-budget decision that we decided on was to have a bunch of extras show up to set, dress them up, and hide them in the darkness to make it seem like there were tons of them.
I ordered paper masks off Amazon, morphed them all messed up and screwy looking, and for like a grand total of $25 or something like that.
So all during the day, I had to prep the costumes that I had made on a really low budget so that right when Braden called action, we were ready to start shooting so that we could take advantage of the limited time that we had to shoot in the closed store.
And that was when the makeup team started to put on all of the demon makeup on our extras. So slathering them with like this white makeup paste to make them look super like sickly and gross.
Hair, grease, masked up costumes in their burlap sacks. We just had to train them how to act like demons.
And then the sun set and we were ready to go.
The first shot we did with the demons was them appearing from nowhere. It was the shot of Anthony Candell, our stupidly talented actor, standing in the middle of the hallway with his arms spread and shouting, what was it, come to me? Was that the line? Help me now.
We got a hold of the power grid, which we probably shouldn't have been allowed to do.
I was all the way back in the back of the store in charge of flickering the lights on and off. I could tell that it was like an exciting scene on the other side of the store. So I'm like, I just gotta like keep going. I gotta do it even if I blow up and light on fire.
Rehearsal!
I hear Braden say, Ethan, lights. Lights! Gesture them towards you. Come on!
If we're shooting one, should I start putting vomit in people's mouths?
Let's do it.
Ready, you guys? We're doing it for real!
And then we unleashed the demons, literally.
And action!
You were just like in awe when you had cut where I was like, okay, we're making a movie.
That was when I was like, oh, this is actually scary.
This looks like something I would see in a movie, and it's my stuff, like on screen.
It felt more like it was actually happening than being on a film set because it was so creepy.
You really start getting that adrenaline going, like, oh, my heart's really going right now. Oh, we're gonna do it again. Okay.
All the extras, they came up with new ways to be creepier each time.
They felt like they were mine. I really felt like I was leading them.
Imagine looking directly at him, bro.
It was so cool just to see that vision come to life in person.
Just so incredibly proud of the entire art team.
And this is where I learned like my favorite lesson of the entire production, which was sometimes it all comes together. And if you ever have moments like this where you feel like you're totally accomplishing what you set out to do, revel in it, because filmmaking can be so much damn fun. So 2 weekends of shooting a feature film were in the can. So far, we had only filmed at those offices from the first weekend and then at this hydroponics store. But it was finally time to go to an actual hardware store and see what it would be like. And when we got there, we began to run into problems we had yet to face, constantly having to film around the actual store workers and the actual store customers.
We might not have been doing any horror stuff like before, but we were still shooting during business hours. Not to mention that the actors looked like they worked in the store we were shooting in.
People just walking up to us in the middle of scenes, that was funny to me.
Howdy. I had people come up to me and ask me for help, and I was taking them to products. And I just, well, if you're looking for this is probably the best way you want to go. He goes, oh, thank you very much.
What are you guys shooting a movie? Really?
If you need any help, just I'm here, Sam. That's what Sam.
Am I gonna be in the movie? You're literally, get out of the way, ma'am. Get your basket and go.
Rolling.
It was fun and it could be funny, but it could also be really, really stressful in the case of one particular story especially. The Black Friday meltdown scene.
Yeah, no comment. I don't want to talk about it. Moving on.
It was so
It didn't happen.
It did not happen. I wish it did.
No, it happened.
We needed our character Gene to have a full-on meltdown where he scratches his own face in a public setting at the registers. I remember being in the writer's room and being like, yeah, I don't know how we're gonna do that, but let's give it a shot. Ace Hardware was totally fine with us shooting during business hours as long as we didn't film up at the registers where customers were checking out. But for this scene, we absolutely had to.
We talked to the owner of one of the Ace Hardwares and he said, yeah, you can come shoot for an hour before opening. We wanted like 3 hours and he's like, no, you get 1 hour and the doors open at 9 and customers are gonna come in and my people are gonna be up at the register working. And we're like, okay. Not easy to do, and especially with a ton of extras. It wasn't just Sam and Gene.
On one hand, plenty of people showed up. And on the other hand, plenty of people showed up. It was a lot.
So the doors opened and everyone ran to the front registers as the chaos began.
And most people that showed up had never worked in a film before.
Where am I looking straight? Yeah, looking straight. It's okay, switch in.
It's very hard to direct real people to act like real people.
So Rachel worked with the extras and we started to get a few of the shots out of the way. And I tried to keep it all together.
You were stressed on it, trying to get the shot. I'm stressed, making sure we're not running out of time. Everyone was stressed. That was the word of the day.
I'm just so behind and so in over our heads.
Rolling. And there's the boogie.
It was brutal. It was a long process.
What did you say to me? I'm sorry. And action.
We tried to get as much coverage as we could.
Okay, cut.
We didn't get a lot of it. We didn't get most of it.
We're not slating?
Yeah, no, that's it. Just cut it. That's it. That's all we got.
I remember just sitting in the aisles like, don't talk to me, like head in hands, please, I failed. And it was the first real time and like in the entire process where I really feel like I totally failed everybody. Like I let down the script that we had written and I let down the people that had come and I had wasted money and I was like I was feeling so awful. But eventually, we talked it through and I was like, I remembered what this production was about. It was not about perfection. It was about finishing our indie film and saying we did it.
Human resources never says die. We're too far in and the project means too much to us to just sort of throw our hands up and say whatever. We got what we got.
So I got right back up on my feet and we figured out a solution.
We decided to shoot something, even if it wasn't close to perfect, instead of giving up and shooting nothing.
I knew we had gotten a lot of the shots of the extras in that 1 hour that we had. Let's flip around the other way in another part of the store and pretend like they're up at the registers. And we'll just kind of shoot around it until it looks okay.
And that is exactly what we did.
Hello, wonderful Brooks customers. All further purchases will be full price.
Even when I look at that scene now, I do notice a few mistakes, and I can tell when they're in one location and then it switches over to the other, but it worked.
It was stressful, but I think it paid off.
And with a few crafty solutions, we had a scene.
God, we got it.
Cool.
Good.
We redeemed it.
That's right.
But then we hit an issue that I didn't think we could solve with this production. Back on our second weekend, we had shot with an actor who was playing the character named Keith in our opening scene. And it's where Keith goes snooping around in Brooks' hardware store, climbs up on a huge ladder, and falls off of it to his untimely demise. And back on this day, when we had shot some of this, the production had to be shut down early that day because there was a miscommunication between us and the store owners. Flash forward a couple weeks, we were barely able to secure some time back at the same location because we needed to finish filming that very important scene. So I reached out to the actor playing Keith, and I was like, okay, we're doing it for real this time. And eventually he said, I quit. I'm not doing this production anymore. And I was like, oh my gosh, where do I have the time to figure this out?
I had been talking at work about we're making a movie. People didn't really know what it was. They thought it's just some student film, some fun thing he's filming. So I was talking to my friend Angel. He was my best friend at my company. I just remember telling him oh yeah, one of our main actors dropped out. Kind of sucks. He's man, I've acted in some stuff before. I could do it. And I'm like, okay. I don't think he knew what he was getting himself into. He didn't know this was a full-scale production with a full crew.
But we had to take a chance on something. It was literally down to the wire. So we went with Angel and crossed our fingers.
Angel just got up on that ladder, and maybe it was the fact that he was actually scared, but he gave a great performance. And boom!
Stay away from me! Just let me go home!
And we're oh my God, this movie just keeps delivering for us. I got my coworker and he kicked ass, and he's better than our original actor for that role.
Filmmaking is problems on top of leaps of faith on top of pure acts of luck. Take chances on unlikely people because you never know what's gonna happen.
Say I love you? I love you too, man. I love all of you guys. You guys are really cool.
But that night we had the special effects task to do of him actually falling off the ladder. I figured, low budget, indie film, the best case scenario is we can hide something out of focus in the background. And to test this, mid-production I used a Minion plushie in my backyard, but how would this work in an actual store location with a huge ladder?
We did not have a stunt performer, nor did we have a stunt coordinator, so we were not going to throw a man off a ladder. Instead, we decided to throw a dummy off a ladder, which means we had to build a dummy.
I had planned everything else pretty meticulously, down to the wire, and then I think it was a week before we shot that, you were like, hey, what's up with that dummy? And I was like, what are you talking about? Can you make a dummy in a week? And I was like, sure. I basically took a foam makeup head and a plastic Halloween skeleton, and then I wrapped it in duct tape, newspaper, and clothes.
And it looked awful. You're looking at it, you're like, there's no way. We're not gonna make this work. His arms were massive. He looked like an ape man. Just Brody, we have to fix this. This looks ridiculous.
And so I went into my car and I grabbed this big knife and I come back and give him his arm.
And I'm holding onto him tight while Brody is just sawing his arms off.
And then glued it back together and taped it in the middle. It looks like a medical procedure from the Civil War. And we're amputating his hand. It was great. It was a really good time.
So after that, we
put him up on this ladder. As the demons came to get him, we would sort of just knock the ladder down. And we're not talking a 6-step, a 5-step. This is a 28-step fireman ladder. It was a solid thing. And so then we just would knock that down in a hydroponic store into Fernie blankets, I think, something like that. And then the dummy comes crashing down. But I do remember the first take of that shot, and it was easily one of the funniest things I've ever seen, watching this stupid dummy and just eating it into the dirt.
Well, the reason the first take was so funny was he didn't go flying. He just went down with the ladder.
That's what it was.
We tried and tried and tried, and then finally the dummy went flying.
It took a lot of takes, but it ended up looking very convincing.
It was not the most revolutionary shot in the world, I'll be the first to admit it, but it worked. Another indie filmmaking lesson in the bag. If you remember during pre-production, the script called for some of the most intense, emotional scenes to take place within a closet.
So me and the art team worked with my dad to build this wall, the only built set in the entire production. Even though we knew that this was the best place to film these scenes, we did not anticipate how hot it was going to be for our crew.
Rachel, if you want to pull the belt around.
What do you think about all this?
That's the handsome fella right there.
You know, the fear fuels the creativity.
When we had been testing this during pre-production, we always tested with the garage door open, just not thinking. We just wanted a little breeze. But then when demon extras showed up and Brody's big creatures were on the move, we closed the garage door and I realized that we had basically created a sauna. It was so awful. Oh my God. We were trying everything to stay cool, but nothing was working. By the end of that location, I was just like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I literally did not know if I could finish this movie. I remember in the middle of one of the takes, oh my God, one of the eyes on the monsters burnt out. And I turned to our special effects guy, Brody, and I'm like, what have we done?
I'm losing my mind.
You were never cut out for this job, kid.
It takes a lot to be a director. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. It takes so much of your brain power to be talking to every head of a department, thinking of your actors, your camera. And on top of all of that, you have to be thinking of maintaining your vision. It can really feel like it is not a human task. On day 17 of 22 on Human Resources, I was like, I don't know if I can see this through to the end. I really don't think I can.
This is one of my favorite memories of the production. There was a kid's birthday party across the street. Everyone was really exhausted. It was hot. We were on a lunch break. And I was like, we're getting the crew on this. We're going on this obstacle course. So help me God.
3, 2, 1, action!
People were in costume. We got like the brew over the slide. It was so much fun, and it was such a picker-upper, and everyone was just in a good mood after that, and that was really important. Like, sure, we went a little over our lunch break. The crew was having fun, and that's what mattered.
It's a hard road, but I made it.
So a day that started with me almost quitting the production ended up being pretty fun in the end. Do not quit, because before you know it, you'll be on to the next day doing more insane fun stuff.
That's fun.
New scene added to the movie.
I'm sorry, Drill Sergeant! Glory to the ground! Yes, Drill Sergeant!
By the end of our penultimate week shooting this movie,
We had cashed in most of our favors at real hardware stores.
but there were a lot more scenes left that took place within the hardware store. So with these intense scenes left to film, I asked my mom if we could film in the hallways of her Christian elementary school, and we would continue to play this little game of mixing and matching the continuity between locations. And we shot so many scenes in one single day just trying to make it work.
I just killed 6 demons.
The quintessential special effects mess up of this whole film, at least on my part, in the moment where I sort of thought I was not going to be friends with you anymore. A lot of things that these movies do to friendships, this was one of them where I was like, ooh, I might not recover from this one. We were shooting at your poor mother's Christian school. There's a scene where Tony is pounding somebody's face in with a hammer. We wanted to see the blood, and so I would have a cup full of fake blood and a brush.
And he would flick tons of the blood up at our actor in motion with the swings of the hammer.
I think it was like midnight too, like we're all super stressed. And I'm like, you know what, Brady? I'm like, it'll just work. It'll just work. And again, it's one of those moments where I'm sorry, I lied to you. I had no idea if it was gonna work. Ready? Because you had told me under no circumstances should I get anything on the walls because this is my mom's school and if you do, it'll look really bad.
I couldn't really see the monitor when I was watching this happen. We were flickering the lights and I was just like, keep hitting it, and Brody's flicking it up, not really knowing where it's going.
In every single pounce of that hammer, the blood flew up. I'm thinking, well, Jesus.
I just keep seeing more and more blood, and I kind of get a peek behind him, and I'm like, oh my God.
We need to clean up camera. Okay, you hold it.
There's blood all over the walls. There's blood on the ceiling. I don't even know how that happened. And then I look down the hallway, and you're standing like wide-eyed, horrified at what you're seeing. And you're like, Brody, what did you do?
No, we're not doing another take.
I told the whole art department to go grab like sponges. There was a sink like 2 feet from the shot. Thank Christ, we would have been doomed. And we saved gracious children of the elementary school by cleaning all the blood off their walls.
This lesson is pretty self-explanatory. It was now August of 2019. An entire year had passed since the idea for this movie began. And the question of how to shoot the big axe combat fight scene was still hanging over our heads.
That fight scene was a fantastic day. I mean, it was well, I'm gonna actually retract that. That fight scene was like World War I. It was originally going to be in the hardware store. He was going to be fighting his way through like solid crowds of demons or something, and we had no idea how we were going to shoot it.
No hardware stores were going to want us to cover their stores with blood, and we couldn't stay past closing, so it would have to take place during the day, and we didn't want that. There were just so many problems to consider for this huge scene.
So by that point, we were way over budget.
The best thing we could come up with was to go back to the studio space from our film program in high school and try and make something of a fight scene in this little studio space. Ultimately, I decided for budgetary reasons that we had to film this fight scene in complete darkness. This is another huge awesome thing, is you can change your script mid-production to fix problems that you didn't anticipate. I was like, let's get a shot of one of the characters flicking all the lights off before this fight scene begins, and then boom, we don't have to actually worry about shooting in a hardware store. But you could still see the main character because in the scene he held up a red lantern that would bathe him in red light.
So everything came full circle as we headed back to high school to try and tackle this scene, but it was not going to be an easy task.
I would love my locations in a film to be a playground where you can shoot it from every angle and you're not really creatively limited. The studio didn't really give us much at all.
And this fight scene, oh my god, I was so scared.
It was the 2 biggest days. We had tons of extras coming and being demons.
Everyone run into the next room, just do it, just go, run!
And doing stunts. I don't know what we were doing. We were already so stressed, and it was towards the end of production, and we knew if we didn't get it these 2 days, we were not getting any of these shots. This was our one shot to get this fight scene.
I remember being like viscerally aware that I didn't really have a plan going into this thing. Like, how am I gonna make a fight scene with all this? And then like my primal instincts took over and I just started directing it. This insane fight sequence with choreography and one shots, and you're gonna be over here, you're gonna be over there, I'm gonna be over here. It was just insane. I don't know where any of it came from. I was leading with something inside me that was like dying to make this movie.
I had this huge vat of blood and I was just following Hugh around, flinging blood with every swing of his axe in time with it.
You don't really think it's gonna be that tiring and exhausting. And then like, oh wait, I brought the intensity, the emotion, and everything. I'm drained. Oh, we gotta do it again? Okay.
And we just spent 2 days just coming up with random special effects gags, anything we could get. And I was like in my head, like, I'm gonna build this into some big epic fight scene montage. I just need to get as many elements as I can.
We had this big like water squirt gun thing that we had to run through the big demons up to their mouths, and we filled it with the goo. I had to crouch under frame and pump the water gun so that it sprayed the blood out of the demons' mouths in time with Hugh swinging the axe.
That was great.
And I'm pretty sure I got like covered with the goo.
I think we flung around at least 5 gallons of blood that day.
Once it was winding down, we realized we had accidentally ruined the curtains with the fake blood, and people had hurt their feet from it being on the ground, not to mention other injuries, and everybody was just overworked and exhausted.
I was beyond just stressed and pissed and just upset, and I don't know if I can do this. Like, this is insane. How irresponsible could we be? We mopped so hard at the end of the night.
And even though we had had some fun and we got it done, was it worth it?
After the second day of the fight scenes, we went to just like a little breakfast place, and it was like maybe midnight, and we took the crew there and bought them dinner. But I was like having a panic attack. I threw up in the bathroom at Norm's. This was like the worst day ever. I don't know how I'm gonna do this. Like, we still have a few more days of shooting. I think I blacked out. I don't know.
I think film school teaches you, like, no matter what, you gotta put everything on the line and make sacrifices no matter what happens. The most important thing is to get that shot. And while a part of me still likes this because it was the reason this production was able to happen, you have to unlearn this as you continue to grow in your film career. Now that I've grown up a little bit, I can see that we could have done a better job at negating these things.
People could have walked out. They could have walked out at any point during production, but it showed like how loyal of friends and crew members and actors we had, which we were so fortunate to have.
I think it was really a moment of looking around and taking stock.
Because even late at night after a huge shoot, we all knew we were gonna come back and finish this production.
And this was the final lesson of human resources. It's cheesy, I know, but I'm gonna say it anyways. Never, ever give up. And it really is just a culmination of all the lessons.
The first time you make a movie or do anything in life, you're probably not gonna do it perfectly. Or the second time, the third, and so on and so forth. You're gonna make mistakes.
You have to just power through, smile on your face as best as you can, and get to that finish line.
That final day was super long.
And there we were, day 22.
Everyone who was on set that day had been on set previously. We had no newbies, no day players. It was very close.
By the end of production, this had become like a beast.
I really felt like, wow, like these, we've really kind of grown from this. Like we're no longer sort of kids.
We're kind of crazy.
Final take.
Final take. Final shot.
All right, we ready, folks? Quiet on set and action. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a wrap on Human Resources!
It didn't really all the way sink in. Like, it was just like, wait, we're done? Then it was also, wait, I don't have to come tomorrow?
Really? That's it? I don't get to play anymore?
I want to film more.
Being 18 and then like finishing a feature film like that and like doing it at 4 in the morning in an Ace Hardware parking lot, it's like, wow, this is what my life's gonna be like, and I'm completely fine with that. Like it was great.
It was the most surreal feeling of accomplishment. I've never experienced something like that in my whole life.
I was almost brought to tears. I really was. Because, you develop relationships throughout life, and there are so few meaningful relationships. And then when you do have them, oh, it really is something. So, and to know that I have these people in my life, I felt so proud, and I was so honored. You can't get moments like that back. And that'll be something I'll take to the grave with me. And it'll be a wonderful last moment to think of. It really will.
Hi, everybody. There is one more person who is wrapped tonight, and that is Braden.
And then it was done, and then we went home.
It's just like, it's over. Now we have to get back to our regular lives.
I cried the whole way home. I was in the car by myself crying.
Feature movie made.
When you think about making your dream project, what's stopping you? Whatever it is, I know how it feels. I know I shared 10 lessons with you, but there's 1,000 more lessons by doing it yourself. But somehow we finished a feature film against these insurmountable odds. And do you want to know what that means? That means we were completely and utterly hands-off done with the project. You heard me right. Steven Spielberg called me the next day, offered to distribute our movie, and we were millionaires overnight. Okay. That is apparently not what happened. Shit. Oh God, it's just starting, isn't it?